There are 168 civilizations in this side of the Milky Way. His story, I think, is an accurate insight into human and ET alien communication problems. A vivid dream can be like the aliens are trying to explain what happened in an abduction. And that is a kind of communication that is delayed, and it uses dreaming in humans. I'm now in honor of the History of Conscious Life Expo. I thought long and hard about this. I have decided that if I feel that I cannot share this material with an audience, even one this small, in a way, I'm doing the same thing as the government. And this is very hard because the information, all of the information that I have been receiving from some sources gives you pause, makes me say, if I were in charge, what would I do? Would I want everybody to know everything that I've just shared? And I think if you disagree, tell me. If some of us who are not skating on bullshit, that there really is substance, real people with real jobs, with real power, who are reaching out to somebody like me and others because they are so frustrated by what they know, and yet they see that the policies going forward in the so-called UAP, brand new Pentagon permanent office that has now been officially confirmed in January. If it's going to just be another layer of bureaucratic, another layer to do this, while they're pretending, it's total pretense that they're actually getting ready to do any kind of honest congressional hearings. I have been called by 2 or 3 people. They've asked me, would I be willing to talk? And the thing now, and this is why I guess I'm leveling in a strange way, it isn't anymore like, could it really be that there are extraterrestrials, you know? You guys, I am reporting to you the truth. But this is a truth that when you stand back, I've tried to do exercises in my own mind. Could I see what I've said to you in the last 30 minutes on CBS, CNN, MSNBC? And when you start doing those thought exercises of this, what I presented to you, with images and the statements, what would the global public reaction be? See, the government thinks that humans just cannot handle any of it. That's the postcard. You have 1/2 in the animal mutilation. But what you don't have is what is behind, which I think this is the surface. Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and you can tell me if you think it's a mistake or it's the right thing to do. And this is not going to be the searing material. This is going to be a voice that I know who they are. I know where they work. I know they have been in an advanced aerospace engineering position for 50 years. That's the person behind what I'm going to read. And there's a lot more, but he asked if I would send him a transcript of a program I did on my Earth Files YouTube broadcast about the Serpo material. So he had not seen the broadcast, but somebody had told him, and he asked if I would send him the script. So that's what I did. And then I understand that from him that he actually watched the program. Linda, I was glad you sent me a transcript of your program. I apologize that I'm not a social media person with all the different things to watch, such as YouTube and the like. I very rarely watch TV. I really don't have the time with all my commitments. I did read it carefully, meaning the transcript. That includes what I have shared with you tonight in a sort of an abbreviated form. And most of the material in your email script is factual. And if you knew who this is and what they do, when I read that, it was the only things that need some additional help is with the Serpo information. This particular project got out into the public domain without any help of individuals directly involved with the Serpo program, but what he is saying is that he knows about the Serpo program, and he knows enough to tell me that what I reported was at least factual. It was a few people that worked in a classified agency that shared information on the building of a very classified military spacecraft. During this program, 3 individuals came across some senior engineers that made the mention of the ability of a cultural exchange program between military people and an older off-world species to better formulate a strategic relationship to better control and understand the unfriendly species we were made aware of before the 1980s. The story that got out was mainly secondhand information that was related to the 3 individuals working in tandem with these senior level program engineers. For example, when the species you referred to as the Ebens travel in space, their craft do not take 9 months. The Serpo material, as I told you, said 9 months. It does not take 9 months to travel the approximately 40 light-year distance. We are talking about a civilization that is many thousands of years ahead of us in technology and science. There is no off-world civilization that is traveling this way in a long-range space travel. In simple terms, they use a quantum information transfer, meaning they dematerialize and rematerialize to a very long distance. Without going into great detail of the science of this technique, an easy way to understand this point-to-point travel is to compare it to a fax machine, as dull as that may sound. A fax machine takes a material object, like a letter, and converts it to information, transmits this information to a new location, and is restored to the original letter at the new location. And when I read that, I had done an interview with Adam Burns. Some of you may or may not have seen that broadcast. It's one of the best, I think, done with somebody who has been periodically abducted. And Adam Burns had sent me photographs of the patterns of bruises on his body, legs, hips, back. And he said, Linda, I've been taken enough times now that I think I'm finally beginning to understand where all these bruises come from. He said, They are deconstructing me at the molecular level. Then they are taking the deconstructed molecular level and they're putting it in their beam technology. And then I come out on the planet or the craft, and it is a reconstruction of the molecular, of the molecules of my body. And that is what Star Trek was showing in the 60s. And I was told that the producer behind Star Trek, I was told this 15 years ago, worked for the CIA. Do you remember his name?
Gene Roddenberry.
Roddenberry. Gene Roddenberry had a contract with the Central Intelligence Agency, is what I have been told. And that Emenager and Sandler and all those guys that 10 years later came into all of the New Mexico, the ropey-headed meeting that we had out in the desert, they were part of the same program 10 years later, all of them working. Sandler and Emenager told me to my face, we did this for the CIA. Just like the day the Earth stood still was a CIA paid for script and production. They opened up what is called a cutout in Los Angeles. This is a production office to produce a film, and behind all of it was the Central Intelligence Agency. And that the beam technology, they're talking to me, we introduced honest material in Star Trek at the request of the Central Intelligence Agency, and that it was a test of public reaction in the form of fiction. This is what is basically being described, that if you think of a fax machine, it's what Adam Burns was saying. They have the ability to deconstruct you molecularly, put you in the beam. Same thing with the cattle. All those cattle seen going up beams and then coming down. Same thing.
But how does it get the consciousness there? Or the consciousness follows the molecular structure?
My dear Alan, if I could answer all of your questions, I would. But it would answer what has been one of the mysteries going all the way back to Bud Hopkins when I finished doing Strange Harvest in 1979 to 1980. And then Bud Hopkins' Missing Time came out. You had these two bookends. You had human abductions and you had animal mutilations. And Hopkins and I would be invited over and over and over and over again on radio and television and to conferences to talk about abductions and to talk about mutilations. In the abductions at that time, if Bud were here, he would agree, were strange bruises, sometimes looking very similar on human to human. The bruises were a puzzle. The people were not beat up. It was a very delicate kind of bruise. This is the first time that there's ever been any explanation to me that would tie in to Adam Burns and the idea that would explain decades of the abductions and bruises. That may not be interesting to you, but it really is to me. Now, he's explained the facts, used the facts analogy of transferring matter into energy and coming out in a long distance. But we're talking about light years here. This same process is done with these UFO craft, using a very special metamaterial in the outer hull of their craft and quantum tunneling technology. Call it quantum jumping if you want, but this is how they travel very large distances quickly. When we travel in space with our craft, we have to have the stellar area of the travel mapped very carefully. He's saying that when humans are not helped by the blondes and the Nordics, we're trying, we're being taught, but that we are clumsy compared. and that we have to have help going, if we're going to try doing a tunnel, a space tunnel, that we have to have the Nordics and the Blondes help clear, because their ships do it automatically through hugely advanced computer systems. The whole craft is a computer. We're not anywhere near there. And they're trying to help us use our crude equipment to do what they do with very advanced technology. And that's when he says, the reason that we have to have the travel mapped very carefully is that we are traveling in a crude manner compared to how they travel. We have extensive mapping missions to make sure that we don't run into anything. Our technology is very crude compared to their way of travel. Also, the idea that is batted about is that somehow Werner von Braun was able to figure out and help a group of scientists back engineer a recovered down UFO craft, but that is absolutely laughable, to say the least. It took many decades to even begin to understand these craft, and it was only recently that we discovered the way the metamaterial worked for spaceflight, which might be the bismuth, magnesium, zinc that was shipped to Art Bell and me, and that I spent from 96 until 2018 doing various investigations. That bismuth, magnesium, zinc I know is used as a skin in some of these craft. The Alcubierre drive is the only way we humans are able to travel in deep space currently. To give some understanding of faster than light travel, think of it this way. If a star we want to travel is 10 light years distance from our solar system, if we travel 10 times the speed of light, it will take 1 year to get there. With the Alcubierre drive working approximately at 80%, we can travel that same 10 light years distance in about 5 24-hour days. So you can see we are experiencing faster than light travel many times the speed of light, which is supposed to be impossible. We do not push the Alcubierre drive more than this percentage of 80% of use for specific classified reasons. It is rare that it is operational at this high percentage in normal exploration space travel. We are still very much taking our time and exploring our stellar neighborhood. We have other off-world individuals on board our craft helping us to understand how to travel in deep space, but primarily their task is to help us map space without getting lost or coming across others and being able to communicate with them in a non-threatening manner. Think of it this way. We humans are in driver's education, and we are the students in our new self-built vehicles. I do know that disinformation campaigns do occur, and more often than most people think, mainly to deter people from discovering the reality of certain things or programs that are extremely classified. I have been around the intelligence circles all of my career, and something did happen under the Kennedy administration, and Reagan terminated that program. It did involve an exchange of sorts, but not the Serpo details. Linda, many people who work in both government and the military are formulating the process for disclosure, and I can assure you that is occurring. People I trust that are involved in actively working on this issue as well. This will happen in the very near future. It will not be announced by the president, but rather by a designated group of the scientific community and a few key public figures. And I can add, I have been told by someone else, they are really hoping that they can use the Webb telescope. And they know that Webb at 4.2 light years from Earth, you can aim that telescope. They know there are structures on a planet in that solar system of Alpha Centauri and Alpha Proxima, and that they would be able to have a breaking news. Here is the web, and it is looking at a city in a planet around Alpha Centauri, and we can see the buildings. First proof of other consciousness in the universe. And that's what could become. Getting back to the Reagan briefing, that information was known before Reagan became president. It was decided to give Reagan the information mainly to develop the SDI space-based weapons technology to deter the aggressive off-world species that we were made aware of, the insects. We have used this weapons technology on multiple occasions to fire upon and down these craft. One instance was caught on camera by one of the shuttle flights by accident. If any of you know anything about that video, maybe it was never ever released even by accident, but I sure would like to find that video. On a further note, the weapons technology used in the SDI program is very effective and is in operation currently. As far as what agency put the intelligence information together for Reagan, it was strictly Defense Intelligence Agency, not any other agency and no other individuals. DIA runs, quote, the program, close quote. Lou Elizondo, his career was DIA. Reagan was the impetus that gave funding that was needed to engineer the SDI technology and put it into space. In the military, it is always understood that until you know something is not a threat, you always take the position that it is a threat until you know for sure otherwise. Reagan understood this and made some difficult decisions under extreme circumstances. No telling where we would be if he had not acted accordingly to the information given to him. As far as the names of the off-world groups you mentioned, it may be accurate, but I have not come across those titles in my interaction with folks that I have worked with. He means the Ebens and the Archeloids, the Tronoloids, and that list. In my experience, they are giving names usually based on the description of how the beings look, the skin color, hair color, eye color, or other noticeable features that set them apart from other species. If they are indigenous to a particular star system, oftentimes they will be classified or titled using the home star designation, such as PA22 or something similar, which would be Procyon A 22. I am truly impressed, Linda, on how accurate you are on these subjects. And I can understand that my reading a lot may put some of you to sleep. But I feel that what I'm sharing with you, I guess why it's important to me. It is the first time in my existence that I feel like I'm telling even a tiny room of people. Those words are from somebody that if you knew what they did, if you knew that they've been working on this for 50 years, if you knew how frustrated they feel that we are a planet that is still in the dark. And he doesn't feel that we should be in the dark. Other men who have come to, they're all men. I have never yet had a female of any kind ever have approached in any way. So the men, for the first time that I have seen in 43 years, they're the ones who are coming and saying, we are frustrated, we have watched you, and we want you to know. And my goal would be to see everything I've told you and a whole hell of a lot more be presented on all of the networks of this planet in the same time around the world in satellites so that every human being in the 8 billion Homo sapiens sapien family heard this is breaking news at what hour of the day it would be, and we would all as a planet be introduced to the truth that we are not alone in this universe, that the galaxies are teeming with consciousness, and until that happens, we are an abused species. Thank you.
So you're taking questions now?
Yeah.
That agency that perhaps talked about, could that be the Galileo project that's gathering all these scientists together, that is planning some big announcement?
I do.
You do?
Yeah. But I don't have it on a piece of paper saying, but I've only read you a tiny excerpt, starting, 4 months ago. I was getting, 4 months ago, I was getting information, Linda, by summer of 2022. And I also have had calls about, I don't know if it is DIA. It could very well be the DIA is orchestrating all of this in bits and pieces, and that then they can control everything a little bit more. This widget, they've got somebody controls, and this widget, and this announcement, and this, instead of let's just tell the world. And the congressional hearing that this brand new law, which has the unpronounceable acronym, and it could be that Gillibrand might have been approached by one of the agencies. We need help. We want to slow this down. Put in a proposal that will make everybody feel like we are making progress with a quote-unquote permanent UFO office, but it's going to be bullshit. I mean, that's one possibility. The other is, she's blonde. She may have a reason to get involved, and we laugh about this. I can't help it. But the truth is, the deeper you get into genetic manipulation of already evolving primates to create Homo sapiens sapien, you run up instantly against the wall of racism. Meaning, if humanoids are created by genetic manipulation, and they're throughout the entire universe, is my understanding, this form, headish, torso-ish, arms, like that's it. That's the humanoid template of this universe. Then, why is it on planet Earth there are 5 races, or fundamental: red, brown, yellow, black, white? Why? If we knew the answer to that, we might have insights into other lies and misrepresentations by all of them. Perhaps by the blondes, the whites, the grays, the AI. And I really, honestly, I do not know. I do not have an insight about why there are these 5 races, and that from time immemorial, the 5 races do not get along. Was this a planet picked for a very specific experiment, which the Ebens do? The Ebens are planetary experimenters. Created all kinds of life, like those 5, the top 3, they were created. Then, the government says, the government, meaning the people working for various agencies who ever talk, when they say the Ebens have done everything we've ever asked, they give us technology, they're friendly, ... but they lie. I even had those words sent to me in a Christmas card back in the 1980s, after I had done A Stranger, I got a Christmas card from somebody saying the Greys are supposed to be our friends, ... but they lie. It's the same message today. What is it that what is it that the agencies have experienced that they will work with the Greys, but they're always on guard because they lie? I feel that, like the Hall of Mirrors with a quicksand floor, why I use that title. Every time I think I'm getting to a point where there is some clarity, the whole issue of what is the true agenda, not only of humans, but the different non-humans. And in case no one has ever said this to you, this is a fact. We have a Space Force now that is in 22 different Milky Way solar systems. You can take that to the bank. They are in 22 different solar systems. They have been there since 1972, or at least in the process of getting to them. There are 168 civilizations in this side of the Milky Way, meaning if you looked at where our little arm is, and you took that as a region, there are 168 now known civilizations to DIA, CIA, NSA, DARPA, and the Pentagon. That's just this side of the Milky Way. So, are there 1,000 civilizations in the Milky Way galaxy? 10,000? And Andromeda, I've talked with one military guy who said he's been on 2 missions to Andromeda. The disconnect between a certain small percentage of humans on this planet and the rest of the planet, that to me, this is abusive. It is opening up the possibility of the planet being run by a corporation or a corporate mind.
Well, I heard Elizondo was going to the UN.
I hope he does, because it would be an appeal to the world. I don't know.
I heard that,
But do you guys understand what I'm saying? This is like we are standing on a line in which, if the next opening is going to be another lie, and that what is truly behind the control of every single thing happening on this planet is by a unit that will never be named, no one will ever know, but they're already the power brokers of Earth. Do you know, this is a fact, do you know that the asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter has already been divided up between corporations? For the gold and the molybdenum and metals are a big deal. Before we've even been told the truth as a planet, corporations, powerful individuals who make trillions, teraflops of money, they have what do you call that? They're handed on a silver platter, while the rest of the planet is suffering in so many ways. I'm not a bleeding heart, but I like fairness. And there are 8 billion consciousnesses on the earth, and it almost has the feel that the corporate elite, the power broker elite, they want only the number of those 8 billion to end up surviving that would support what they've already divided up out in the asteroid belt. On Mars, I'm assuming Mars is also divided up. Literally, real estate, I believe, somebody told me that there have been real estate deals on Mars. And you think, none of this is happening with a sense of global humanity. Everything that is happening is being controlled and operated by people that are paid to lie and to deceive, and they are the intelligence. I know some of these people, I like them, but they're paid to lie, they're paid to deceive. And therefore, and look at China, look at Russia and the Ukraine situation. Why is that happening now? Is Putin, and I'm not kidding about this, is Putin involved in one of the theatrical productions that are leading up to finally the earth being told, but it will be told in a constrained way, or something that's already been divided, that the earth as a global unit is not going to care one flip about you or me. Yeah.
In all your years of research with whistleblowers, top scientists who come up with positives, has anyone in the scientific, military, or corporate communities suggested that there might be a spiritual strategy of protection against the negative encroachment?
Never. And I think some of you have heard me describe how in 1999 I was approached by a man in the World Bank. He had seen me at a conference in San Francisco, contacted me after the conference, wanted to sit down and talk with me about UFOs and ETs, whatever I was presenting then. We did. Then he would come to where I lived at the time, which was in Philadelphia, and he would call and say, can we meet, and I'll take you to lunch or dinner or whatever, and we would talk about UFOs. And then in November of 1999, he called and he said, would you be willing to travel for a meeting that I would like to set up with a man who is retiring from the Defense Intelligence Agency, where he has worked for 23 years on extraterrestrial matters with Earth. That's exactly how he said it. And it took about a month, and all three of us traveled. And so I met the DIA analyst meeting and with him, and we let him tell us where we would be, where we would go. And without talking, the physical area where we were, he said, just follow me. And we ended up being able to walk to a sort of river bay area, and there were a lot of boats. And some of the boats had running engines. And there was one area where people could sit. And as we approached and we sat down, he looked up and he said, I do not think our satellites can penetrate this white noise. And that's how the meeting began. And we were there for 7 hours on my watch, and it was our bladders that broke the meeting. And in those 7 hours, he began with, I have worked for the Defense Intelligence Agency for 23 years in analyzing the competition and conflict of 3 extraterrestrial civilizations that have been warring with each other on this planet for at least 270 million years. Our government has proof of that. That's how it began. And during those 7 hours, if I boiled it all down, he never mentioned anything about insects. But this is what he told me, among many things. The 3 competing civilizations he described as being tall blondes, reptilians, and greys. And he said they have been warring with each other over this planet for 270 million years. We have proof of that. And when I said, what is the proof? He said, Linda, it is too dangerous. If I told you, both you and I essentially could be terminated. I can't imagine what's on the other side of that statement. Meaning, what is the proof 270 million years ago that would be that dangerous? But he then broke down and said, you need to understand that these three competing civilizations on this planet, each one wants to eliminate the others. And each one can clone the bodies of their enemies and inhabit. The reptilians clone grays and blondes. The blondes clone grays and reptilians. The grays clone reptilians and blondes. All three can take over any one of a body that it wants. And he said it is extremely difficult. And remember this, if you remember nothing else, we need technology to tell who or what is in bodies on this planet. For those of you who have, I don't know if there's anybody in here, I don't think there is, who's been with me at a crop circle research. I started going to England into crop circles in 1992. And by 1995, it only took 3 years, where it had been peaceful and beautiful and magical and wondrous and not hoaxers. By 1995, a group that I came to learn, this is a fact, I cannot give you a piece of paper, but this is a fact. A group of men organized by MI6 in collaboration with the Central Intelligence Agency in the United States were working, and they were paid by those agencies, and they called themselves Team Satan. And they left the number 666 in the fields, on barns, on cars, and pretty soon, from 1995 on, this incredible phenomena of crop formations, mathematical language being laid down on our surface of our Earth, was hijacked and perverted into this 666 Satan sort of thing. And one day I was in a field and a man approached me. I would later learn he worked for the CIA. And he asked me what I thought of the crop formations, and I said they're a serious mystery. And he said, well, I know someone who works for the Central Intelligence Agency. And when anybody says it that way, I know it's them, but they're always, it's got to be somebody else. The CIA is working with a bank of Cray computers and satellites. And they have been trying to get photographs of every crop formation in the sequence of time that they are put on the Earth and the specific latitude, longitude, and they are feeding it into a bank of Crays because the CIA is convinced that this is mathematical language that is being laid down on this planet as tests of the accuracy of time travel. So, let your mind be provoked. Well, let's see. Am I at the?
You're good. You have another 15 minutes.
Are you bored by all of this?
No. You can talk for hours.
I have a question.
Yeah.
You've noticed, haven't you, that these alien races appear to be waking and dreaming at the same time, right? You've heard that before? Their state of consciousness doesn't separate the waking from dreaming and human.
No, I have never heard that before, because how the hell would humans know if ETs were waking and dreaming at the same time? How would we know?
That's a very good common theme in the Dutch reports. We've never picked
But
that up.
you're talking about humans assuming and making a statement about something that ETs that we don't know much about.
They claim in their experiences that the aliens tell them that we dream all the time.
Humans dream all the time.
No, that they dream all the time. That they are awake and are dreaming at the same time. Although it's been expressed as we are dreaming continuously. And human beings separate our waking and our dreaming.
There was one
I've never heard anything like that. No. Let me give you one example that I hope would be of help to all of you, no matter what is ever announced. This is firsthand to me from the CIA person who experienced this. It was in the 1970s. It was a dam in a small town in Arizona. He gets called, is flown from the East Coast to meet up with military and other operatives because the government does not know what has happened to this dam in Arizona, but what was reported as UFOs over the dam at the time that it cracked or disintegrated. And eventually, I heard this directly from this person who approached me at a conference. And his story, I think, is an accurate insight into human and ET alien communication problems. He said that his superior officer asked him to go to a specific place in this town where the dam had been basically destroyed and the town had been flooded with water and they'd had no idea. And he said, we reached out to the Greys, that we have the ability to send signals, that the Greys have helped us. That part is true. They have helped us, even if they sometimes lie. And the Greys came in and his superior officer said, I want to use this experience for you to have the direct experience of getting communication from one of the Greys. So he said, his superior laid out, they have agreed, there will be a Grey, he will not float, and this is true. The Greys prefer not to walk, not to interact with floors, grounds, that they have this pen, and they neutralize gravity to their body, to anything they want to with this pen. But that, as he said, it freaks humans out. And so we asked the Grey, will you walk? And the Grey agreed. And the superior officer said to him, you will want to laugh, and that's fine. You want to laugh. It's going to look like Donald Duck coming to you, and he's agreed. And the man said, I said to him an obscenity. I'm not a teenager. I can handle it. And he said the superior officer said, I want you to know because you think you're ready. And this is why I want you to experience this. I've asked, I want the Grey to go in the back, and then it's going to come up straight towards you, and about 5 to 6 feet out from you, you're going to begin to shake. You are going to feel such terror that it will be like when we do flamethrower warfare. But I'm ordering you, he had a wry smile when he said that, I'm ordering you to stand your ground. I don't want you to faint. I want you to experience what it is like to get communication from a Grey. And he said, I just thought that was, like he's treating me like a child. And he said, here comes the Grey. It gets down, turns, and he wanted to laugh because it did look like Donald Duck out of a cartoon. And he's thinking, oh, this is just bullshit. So the Grey's coming up, he's watching it mildly amused. And he said, Linda, it got out about 5 to 6 feet from me, and I began to shake. I began to shake in my entire body, and I was embarrassed. The superior officer and my fellow officers are back behind me. I know they're watching me, and my body is shaking, and I can't get it to stop. And he said the officer had told him, wait for the head to tilt up, and when the eyes connect with your eyes, you will no longer be in control. But I'm ordering you to stand, and I want you to tell me what happens. So now he's got that in his head, and he's shaking, and the head begins to tilt up, and he said, Linda, I don't know if the world is ready for this. He said, I did what I had been ordered to do. I looked. I didn't change my eyes. And in a split second, that those large black, whatever the hell they are, I remember him saying, I don't know if they're lenses or organic. When my eyes and those eyes were at the same level, he said, in my consciousness came a movie, just like watching a movie, a Hollywood movie. It had gold symbols, probably Sanskrit, that were three-dimensionally like surfaced above every one of the images. There was sound, there was temperature, there was feel, there was everything. And he said, I know my mind was trying to ask a question, and every time I was trying to ask a question came another movie. Movie, all with gold. And he said, I fainted. And they caught him. The superior officer was prepared. They'd done this before. He woke up on a bed in some place in a tent, and it was 3 hours later. And he said, with God as my witness, I know that what that being was doing was showing me where it came from, why it was here, what it was doing, the images of the earth, all of this. And he said, God could ask me, and I do not know what was doing. And he said that was what my superior officer wanted me to experience, is that we are a species that is fundamentally so different, and yet the grays are considered to at least be helpful to the human military. And I think about what I've just told you. I think about it quite often, but I do not think it is an excuse to keep the earth completely dumb and blind.
But the insertion of a dream,
Well,
a waking dream in it. Think about it.
You know, we talked about that the other day. He said those beings exist in a no-time space, and so
or can. They can go in and out of different levels of frequency that we do not understand how to do.
Is it not reasonable to think they might have access to their own subconscious?
I don't know how to answer the questions you're asking, because I only know what I have been.
Where do you put in the idea of lucid dream? That's when you're half awake. You have a dream.
That's exactly it.
I don't know. All I do know is vivid dreams can bring communication to people who have been abducted later, like 2 weeks later. A vivid dream can be like the aliens are trying to explain what happened in an abduction. And that is a kind of communication that is delayed, and it uses dreaming in humans. But beyond that, I can't answer these others.
That story you just told is mine. That's Rick's favorite. Sometimes we show, because you told it at the citizens' hearings, and it's just the perfect story to illustrate the scope of
That's right.
mind
That's right.
that we can.
We're not there.
comprehend.
No.
But I think lucidness, the more lucid we can be, the more we can adapt.
Well, I'll tell you, in leaving everybody on, I hope, an up note, I am convinced, I know that the aerospace engineer agrees with me on this, he's let me know, no matter who actually manipulated the DNA in already evolving primates to create Homo sapiens sapiens. We are a species that does have a soul that is considered enviable and desired. And that if we knew the truth about reincarnation, the recycling of souls as the machinery of this universe as it has been described in a document that I was shown, I do not have, but I was shown to read, that came in a dialogue that was filmed. Our government has this film in one of the underground archives. And it was from an EBIN that was collected from a crash site, not the 47 July, another one in 49. And the being was alive, and the captain at the site was assigned to stay with the being that was taken up to Los Alamos. And the being lived from 49 until June 18, 1952, in Los Alamos. And every single day during those 2+ years, they put a 16 millimeter camera on the captain and the EBIN. And the captain would talk, because you could hear the human, you couldn't get the telepathy of the gray. So the Air Force guy would say his question, and then while the gray was answering, he would then, Charlie McCarthy style, say, this is what I'm getting telepathically. And one of the questions that was submitted was, is reincarnation real? And the answer that is supposed to be on film from the gray sitting there next to the Air Force was, reincarnation is the recycling of souls, is the machinery of this universe. And the concept that we may be a species that was made specifically for soul recycling and education, and that there are non-humans who want that. How complicated is this universe between the different species, the soul's role? And it always leads to this question, and I'll leave it here on this last question. I've asked several people that have worked in military and CIA, DIA, NSA, and I never get an answer. Why were the first 3 avatars sent here in the first place? And I mean Buddha and Krishna and Christ. What is the meaning and the communication to Homo sapiens sapien from those 3 fundamental figures in history who were identified as having something to do with a source of the divine? It almost seems to me that we're in a schizophrenic universe, and that the only way that you can begin to make any sense of it is to think of the yin and the yang symbol. And that Thomas Campbell, the physicist who worked for Army Intel and helped develop the Robert Monroe out-of-body technique, that Christ, Krishna, and Buddha. And I don't include some, like the Muhammad. I don't know who Muhammad really represented, and that's the same problem with the ET. But it is as if there is a relationship between something else that may be far beyond any of the biological or certainly the AI in the universe. And Thomas Campbell, the Army Intel guy who worked with Robert Monroe, He said this is an entropy reduction trainer for souls universe. And I keep coming back to that as being more logical than anything I meet. And that in the end, whether you're a gray, whether you're a tall blonde, whether you're a reptile, whether you're a horrible insect, if you're a human, it may be that this universe is one gigantic university with the goal that the divine field would like every soul, even if they run across evil, to end up choosing the thought that dwells in the light. And then that would be the return back to the origin of all, the thought that dwells in the light. And that is as close as I can get to the feeling of something that is true about this strange universe. And I thank you.
If you enjoyed this, make sure to watch the next video on Awaken Zone. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell, but you won't want to miss what's coming next.